Everything started when rebels got tired of British law and escaped from a ship called Bounty. They came to this island to hide and live there. After this escape, Pitcairn saw many bad events with drunk leaders and violent killings. Polynesian people came to the island in the 11th century. They built homes and lived there with the animals they brought. Pitcairn Island had valuable black stone and good rocks. The people lived happily on this beautiful island. They used these stones to trade with the people of Mangareva Island, which was 500 kilometers away. When you look at the island's location, it is easy to see that it is one of the hardest islands to reach in the world. When the people first arrived, they were probably very happy. They used the island's resources well. They took stones from the ground, raised animals, planted crops, and lived a good life for 400 years. But after 400 years of good life, the stones on the island started to finish. Then problems began with Mangareva, the only island they traded with. When the people of Pitcairn had nothing left to sell, life became hard. Because of poverty and anger, small civil wars started on the island. When the first blood was spilled, the end was already close. The Polynesians slowly lost their lives because of hunger and because they could not escape to another place. In the end, no one was left on the island, and the island became silent. Many centuries passed after these sad events. In 1787, Britain sent a ship called Bounty to the Pacific Ocean to find and bring back breadfruit trees. Britain had many valuable people of different races in the Caribbean. They were looking for an easy way to feed them, so they needed food that was cheap and easy to grow. The plan of the Bounty crew was to get breadfruit trees or seeds and grow them on the islands where their people lived as a solution to hunger. The ship started its journey and began to look for the seeds. They visited many islands. When the Bounty arrived at Tahiti, the sailors were surprised. They were not used to kindness and many women, but on this island they were welcomed in a very unexpected way. There were many women, a warm tropical climate, and good treatment. The sailors, who had never seen such a life before, did not know what to think. Many of the sailors liked this beautiful life and did not want to leave. They stayed on Tahiti Island for more than 6 months and enjoyed their days there. Of course, they still had a duty, so they had to leave. But the men were so happy that no one wanted to return to life at sea. They also could not rebel at that time, so they sadly got on the ship and started the journey back home. The men had tasted the island life, the women, and the easy food. Because of this, they could not stand the hard sea life for long, and a rebellion began. The first person to rebel against Captain Lieutenant William was Lieutenant Fletcher Christian. The crew chose Fletcher as their leader. They put Captain William and 18 men who stayed loyal to him into a small boat. Then they left them alone in the open ocean and sailed back toward the island. The rebellion was successful. Captain William and his 18 loyal men rowed a small boat for about 6,500 kilometers and finally reached land. After that, they started to plan revenge. Meanwhile, the new rebel Captain Christian and his crew reached Tahiti, their paradise. When Christian and a few crew members heard this news, they escaped from the captain's anger. They took some Tahitian women and male slaves with them and left the island. They looked for a new place to live. This place was Pitcairn Island, which had become very quiet because of its past. They wanted to see it as another paradise like Tahiti, but the reality would be very different. In 1790, bad days were about to begin. On the island, there were 9 European sailors, including Christian. With them, there were 12 Tahitian women and 6 Tahitian men who were slaves. The total population of the island was 27 people, 9 sailors and 18 slaves. 9 of the women were shared among the 9 sailors. The remaining 3 women were shared by the 6 male slaves. This means each sailor had 1 woman, but the male slaves had 1 woman for every 2 men. This unfair situation made the slaves very unhappy, and anger slowly started to grow. As I said, Pitcairn Island had many good things: fertile land, fresh water, and a warm, beautiful climate. But alcohol soon became one of the biggest problems on the island. One of the sailors, McCoy, learned how to make alcohol from the sweet roots of a local plant. During this time, the main leader, Christian, stepped back from ruling and wanted to enjoy island life. McCoy took control, but he became addicted to the alcohol he made. As a leader, all he did was walk around drunk and spend time with his woman. One day, McCoy drank too much and had an angry outburst. Because his woman slave Taveriara could not catch fish, he punished her by cutting off her ear. Taveriara was already suffering from living with such a terrible man. After this event, she jumped from the cliffs and killed herself. After this, the alcoholic leader McCoy was left without a woman, which was rare on the island, but he did not care. He started to want the women owned by the 6 male slaves. The 6 male slaves were already unhappy because 2 men had to share 1 woman. When McCoy tried to take one of these women, the situation became very tense. The Tahitian male slaves managed to steal guns and ammunition from the sailors. It was clear that this rebellion was not planned for a long time. In just a few hours, the slaves killed most of the European sailors on the island. Of course, the women and children stayed alive. From the 9 sailors, only 4 survived: Adams, young Quintel, and the alcoholic McCoy. The other women and children were not harmed, but the story did not end there. The slaves who started the rebellion did not want to protect the women. Their real goal was to take all the women for themselves and live with whoever they wanted. The slave women knew this. They used the chaos and killed the 6 Tahitian men in their sleep. These local men treated the women even worse than the European sailors. So the women decided to act. Now, there were 11 local women and 4 European sailors left on the island. Except for the alcoholic McCoy, the other 3 sailors were not very cruel men. While McCoy spent his time drinking, a man named Quintel stayed alone and kept to himself. Adams and Young lived quietly. They felt sorry for what they had done, prayed, and read the Bible. They gave their lives to religion. But Quintel slowly became more violent and started to bother the local women. One day, he lost control and began to hurt people. He even said he would hurt children. Adams and Young believed this behavior was against religion. One night, they killed Quintel. After some time passed, the alcoholic McCoy killed himself. Soon after that, the religious Young suddenly became sick and died. This island, which looked like paradise, strangely became a grave for many people. Only Adams was left as the single man on the island. He became both the leader and the religious guide. He lived with all 11 women, like having a harem. There were different thoughts about Young's death, but the truth was never clear. As days and months passed, Adams lived with all the women, taught religion, and saw himself as a holy man sent to the island. His goal was to build a Christian society. He destroyed all plants that could be used to make alcohol. Over the years, many children were born, and the island's population slowly grew. Adams' people continued to grow as a religious community. Pitcairn Island became like a religious stronghold. In 1808, British royal ships arrived at the island. They saw a respected, calm, and religious leader with his people. At least, that was how it looked. The British were amazed to see a Christian society in the middle of the ocean. They did not know much about the dark past of the island. After they arrived, the order slowly changed. Adams became old, and a new leader was needed. An explorer named George Nobbs became the leader. After George died, a man named Joshua Hill arrived. He said the British government had chosen him as the new leader. He took control, built his own palace on the island, and began to live a comfortable life. After a few years, it became clear that this man was a liar, and he was sent away from the island. But this island, almost like a magical place, kept its charm and continued to attract visitors. As the years moved toward the 1900s, a man named John T., who was a Seventh-day Adventist, came to the island. The Seventh-day Adventist faith is similar to different groups in Islam. This man was still Christian and believed in Jesus and God, but his rules and traditions were different. In some way, he managed to influence the people of the island. He brought the population into his belief and became the leader. His first order was to kill all the pigs on the island. He said his religion demanded this. The people felt uneasy when they heard this, but they obeyed their leader and accepted the Adventist faith. This belief has continued until today. During this time, Queen Victoria also accepted the existence of this community, so the island became official. Later, when the population became too large, about 150 people were sent by the Queen to other islands. Over time, the island became more well-known. In the 1900s, governments and travelers organized visits to the island. The British government sent officials to attract more people. Post offices were opened and stamps and postcards were printed. The island was no longer known only as Pitcairn Island. Other islands were included, and it became the Pitcairn Islands group with Edenstan as the capital. It was now like a new country. The island adapted to the modern world, and all basic services were created, such as local government offices, clinics, and courts. Even after many years, the dark history of the island did not end. In 2004, the population was about 60 people. About 20 of them were men, and 7 men were charged with 55 crimes, including child abuse and rape. One of these men was the mayor, and another was the island's judge. A prison was built on the island. 6 men, including the mayor, were sent to prison, but the judge was found not guilty. After about 5 to 6 years, the prisoners were released. The new mayor was Mike Warren, the brother of the judge who was found not guilty. He focused on children's rights. Most of these people were born and raised on the island. In 2010, when Mike became mayor, many child abuse images were found on his computer. He was sent to prison. Sadly, this island continued to face terrible events. Later, the island's first female mayor, Charlene Warren Pio, took office in 2019. According to sources, she was not involved in any crimes, but her term ended in 2022. She was replaced by Simone Young, who is still the leader today. According to the latest count, the island's population is about 50 people.